Everybody. Welcome to Ann Ortelee's Weekly Weather. I am Ann Ortelee, and this is the weekly weather for January 11th to the 18th. Welcome to the beginning of a new year, which adds to a 1. 2 and 2 and 6 is 10 is a 1. So this is an initiating year, and we have lots of new beginnings. Some of them are a little dicey, so we may be like, I don't really like that new beginning, Ann. And I'll be like, I know. Because with the new beginning, there's always an ending, right? The ending happens, we get to that conjunction, it goes done. And then the new beginning happens and we go new beginning. But that energy of processing, releasing, and letting go can be a little stressful for us as we go forward. So we're going to talk today about the week ahead. Lots going on. Last week had lots going on. This week has lots going on. We're just rocking and rolling. That's the best way to think of it. All right, so the features of the week. We have Mercury out of bounds until January 16th. Mercury's opposite Jupiter, which is Mercury in Capricorn opposite Jupiter in Cancer, which is an expansive energy. And because he's out of bounds, when he does that opposition, expansive news or ideas. We're going to have Venus this week. She's going to sextile Saturn, trine Uranus, and sextile Neptune as she goes through the back end of Capricorn. And then she's going to enter Aquarius. She's going to leave Cap behind and go into Aquarius, where now she's going to be reporting not only to Saturn, but because Capricorn, she reports to Saturn, she's going to throw Uranus in there. And Uranus, of course, is in Taurus. So her sign. So she gets, I don't want to say friendlier, but she gets clearer and more precise. And if you've ever dealt with a Venus in Aquarius, or you know any, they're very good at detaching and looking at a situation without a lot of emotion. And they also are very good at watching because remember, Aquarius is as an air sign, it's a fixed air sign. So it's kind of like when you're coming in on an airplane and you see you see the ground getting closer and closer. Aquarian planets fly high and they see things in a new way. So she's going to enter Aquarius for the month, for 3 weeks. And then right behind her, next week, we're going to have the sun come into Aquarius. We're going to have Mars come into Aquarius. And we're going to have Mercury come into Aquarius. So there's a lot of shifting energy because we're leaving one sign and going into another. Remember, we're going from earth into air, which is a difficult transition, or, just jumping in the air, right? And what happens? We have gravity. So when we're in Capricorn, we're in gravity time. When we jump into the air, we're in Aquarius time, but then we come down to earth again. So it's an interesting, you're going to be jumping, but you got to wait until the other planets are up there kind of jumping with you. Think a trampoline, right? Then the sun is going to sextile Saturn like Venus did. And he's going to trine Uranus. And then next week, he will sextile Neptune. Then Mercury and Mars are going to meet up. That one's a bit of a blowout because Mars is in Capricorn and Mercury are in Capricorn. So that's words and actions that are big deal. Conjunctions are new beginnings. And also before there's a new beginning, there's the ending of communication, the ending can be a fight. It can be, and it happens once a year, Mercury-Mars conjunction. So there's an energy, but because Mercury is very intense right now, and Mars is in his exaltation in Capricorn, this is an interesting conjunction that's strong. Then we have a new moon on Sunday, 2844 Capricorn. Now, this what we've been having since September. The new moons have been at the last degrees. It was 28 Virgo, it was 29 Libra, end of Scorpio, end of Sag. This one's 28 Cap. The new moon eclipse next month is 29 Aquarius, 29 Pisces, 29 Aries. So think of it, we're having the cycle until we get of 7 months of ending moons at the last degrees, the anaretic degree, where things are finished. They're almost like dead moons. They're like, that's done, that's dead, because the last degree is energy's gone, energy's wasted, or energy's finished. And then we initiate a new cycle which is good, but we also are still aware of the ending being kind of a strong energy. Then Mercury is going to sextile Saturn and then Uranus and Neptune next week. So this week is trines and sextiles, but the planets are a little crabby. And we also had that fixed cross that broke up, was on Saturday and Sunday that we had last weekend. So as that cross breaks up, I mean, not fixed, the cardinal cross, I said fixed, but we had all these planets in Capricorn and Libra and Aries and Cancer. So they're action-oriented planets. That's why it feels like bing, 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 bing all over the place. Everywhere you look, something's going on. Because the cardinal planets are just taking action and doing stuff, kind of whether we like it or not, frankly. But they also have this energy of intensity and passion and finality, because they're like, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. And then they're coming in, they're what's in a closing sextile, a closing trine. The next aspect they make is going to be a conjunction. Capricorn, the next aspect it'll make a conjunction to Saturn. There'll be Aquarius and then Saturn. So they're closing, releasing. Think dandelions when those little seeds are there and they blow everywhere. That's the energy, blowing everything up, blowing things around. We're taking Earth and we're shifting it into air. We're shifting it into water. We're shifting it into explosions because Uranus is in Taurus. So that's the Earth exploding. In addition, we're having a bunch of solar activity. Now, when the solar flares are kicking, one, we have the northern lights, but two, it tends to be times of great restlessness on Earth. So we have that kind of in the background. The sun is a little, frankly, out of control. He's like shooting coronal mass ejections at us. Sign up for the NASA website to get when there's a big mass coming at us, because you'll see it fire, and then like the next day is a big news day. It's kind of wild, actually. But yeah, sign up for the alerts about the solar flares. It's the best we can do. So this week our moons are in Scorpio on Sunday and Monday today. Tuesday, it goes void at 6 p.m. trine Neptune, so that's a nice flowing aspect. And then it enters Sagittarius at 6:34 p.m. So the weekend had Scorpio moon with a closing aspect of a trine. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have Sagittarius moon. It goes void in the morning, early on Friday morning. These are all East Coast times, square Neptune. And then it enters Capricorn at 6:47. So Friday, the day is void most of the day, from 6:19 in the morning to 6:47, which is actually good because we could use a rest. Saturday is Capricorn moon. Sunday is a Capricorn moon going void with a sextile to Neptune. Again, a decent energy. And we also have the full moon on Sunday. And then it enters Aquarius on Sunday night. So there's a nice energy here. The moons are basically pretty well behaved, but they are out of bounds. The moon's out of bounds right now in Sag, or Scorpio Sag, and it'll be out of bounds Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So out of bounds moons mean out of bounds emotions. So just know, even though the closing aspects are reasonable, the emotions are going to be running high. And of course, the Sag moon out of bounds square to Neptune, that one is, that one's got a lot of revelation and a lot of showing you what you need to see. But because the moon's out of bounds and it's answering to Jupiter in Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer goes to look at the moon every 2.5 days and sees what it does. The Sag moon has a little bit of an argument with the Jupiter in Cancer because they're what we call quincunx. But also the moon's out of bounds, so it makes the Jupiter in Cancer really react. So you want to watch where Jupiter in Cancer is, about 20 degrees in your chart. So planets at 20 degrees are going to get an extra boost of energy in the middle of the week. Next, let's just do the chart. So it's quiet Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then we get to Wednesday, and we're going to have the Mercury opposite Jupiter. Now, we already have had the Venus opposite Jupiter, the Sun opposite Jupiter, the Mars. The Venus opposite Jupiter was the woman getting shot in Minnesota, Nicole Good. Then we go into the sun and the Mars, which is decisions making about how we're going to proceed. For the Mercury opposite Jupiter, Mars is on the world point. 22 and a half of the cardinal is a world point. And it is also square to Chiron at 22 and a half. And Chiron and the sun, or Chiron and Mars in a square, is a little bit of a tough energy, okay? Because there's an opportunity for old wounds to resurface. And that's kind of an underlying energy, where we're getting fired up. Whatever our old wounds are going to get stimulated by Mars, and then they're going to help us move forward. The chart cast for DC puts Uranus on the descendant. And with Uranus on the descendant, we know any planet angular we're going to pay attention to because they have a lot of story and a lot of energy behind them. And we have over here, these little Cappy planets are all coming in to trine Uranus. First up is the sun, is Venus, then the sun, then the Mars. So we're going to have that Uranus stimulated a lot. And once Venus goes into Aquarius, that Uranus is going to, instead of being in an earth, it's going to be a detached air sign, which is can be a little crueler or colder, but actually that's what you want. So there was a point in time when I was reading people at the hospital near where I work, and I had a bunch of them come from the burn unit. Now, if you've ever known anything about burn patients, they have to scrub their skin off. It's called debriding. And you have to have a pretty detached emotional nature to deal with that energy, because it hurts the patient and they tend to make noise, right? So when Venus goes into Aquarius and then takes over that Uranus, which is in Aquarius for a while, it'll go into Pisces in a few weeks, but she's going to be in a very cold space, even though it's a trine. So we're going to watch for the coldness once Venus shifts later this week. But right now, Venus is in Capricorn and she's sextile to the Saturn and Neptune. So she's in a working aspect, earth and water make mud. So this is productive. So even though there's all this crazy, the other piece of it is the energy is very productive because it's sextiles and trines. So the whole idea is to kind of keep your focus on what you need to do and watch where the moon is, as it goes through Sagittarius and Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn this week, what part of your chart is it in, and go hang out with the moon. Because the moon is where you're supposed to do your daily work and then focus on what you're supposed to be working on in those areas. And then, of course, we have that really big new moon on Sunday in Capricorn. So we're in a waning phase. The moon's getting smaller in the sky, going towards the new moon. So release, 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 but there's action-oriented releasing here, right? So as the Mercury opposite Jupiter, we can expect some tough news. Mercury rules the midheaven. And Mercury rules the 7th and the 8th houses, and it rules the 9th house of legal matters. So watch the court system, watch how people are interacting in the world in public, and kind of see what's going to go on. I'm going to turn my phone off because it's going to ring. That little message came in, and I'm like, no, we're not making noise in the middle of the podcast. Next up, Venus is sextile Saturn. So now we get into a nice place. So Venus first sextile Saturn, which it's a working sextile. So, she's in Earth. She wants to get stuff done. Saturn's in Pisces. He's in the sign of her exaltation. She's in the sign of his rulership. They're in what we call mutual reception. So that makes Wednesday and Thursday very productive because she's an orb. The sextile, is happening. So you've got a lot of opportunity to get things that work the way you want when she's in that sextile. Then we have her trine Uranus. So now she's at 27. She's trining Uranus, bringing forth some creative ideas after she chatted with Saturn. Now, if you've attended my year ahead and the talent triangle stuff we talked about, or the minor grand trine, you'll notice that the Mercury, the Mars, the Sun, and the Venus are all trine to Uranus, various phases, all approaching. And they're all sextile to the Saturn Neptune. So this is an earth and water minor trine, minor grand trine, or a talent trine. Don't say minor talent because people get insulted. But so it's an energy of getting things able to be done in earth and water. So it's very productive for physical stuff. because the planets are working together and they get each other. And then, of course, once they all shift into fire and air, we have the talent trine in fire and air for like a long time, 8 years. It's so, but right now, earth and water. So they're saying, think about the last 20 years when I've been in earth and water, last 14 years for Neptune and water, since '08 for Pluto and Cap. And then Saturn's been in water for the last couple years, but he's finishing up the story like he did in '97 when he was in Pisces going into Aries. So think about those times. And it's always helpful to go back and look at what was going on in your life when these planets were at the degrees. And if you have planets in the 20s, think of all this energy 23, 25, 27, 27, 29, 27, 24. It's like boom, 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 boom. And then the moon's going to clip it every day when it hits, every couple of days when it hits 24. Very active skies, which of course you've noticed because it's very hard to keep track of everything that's going on right now. Then Venus comes to sextile Neptune. So she's at 29, sextiling Neptune coming. So first Saturn, then Uranus, then Neptune. So sextile, trine, sextile. So it's a working energy. Like, oh, I got this cool stuff, what I worked for, and I'm going to give it to you, Uranus, to bring out in the world. And that's going to happen on Saturday. And then on Saturday, we have the sun moving into position, and he's going to go through the same thing. So he's going to sextile Saturn on Sunday and start this. He's then next week going to do Uranus and Neptune. And so we watch this, all these planets in Capricorn come through and do this little dance. So first up is Venus. You want to watch what she does very carefully because she's the lead girl. She's in charge. The rest of them are all following her and paying attention to her. What's Venus saying she wants? And of course, when she had her trine and sextile, her day is Thursday, right? Or Friday rather. So she had the trine to Uranus and then the sextile to Neptune on Saturday. So Friday was the midpoint between those. And think of these as midpoints too. Those of you who know midpoints, these are intense cycles. So it's a Uranus Saturn midpoint, it's a Neptune Uranus midpoint, it's a Saturn Neptune midpoint, it's a Sun Saturn midpoint, it's a Venus Saturn. Like the midpoint conditions right now, if you print them out on your Solar Fire or your Sirius or whatever software you use, you're going to see all these planets connecting and merging energies because that's what midpoints do. Especially, and as the planets come through and set them off, it's like ringing a bell over and over again. You can almost hear the harmony. You can almost hear the energy building. And of course, it's Venus, what I want. Sun, I'm seeing it clearly. Mars, the planet of war, but he's in a good sign. And he's hopefully tempered because he's talking to Saturn and Pisces. And then Mercury. So intensity, right? Just feel it. It's like amazingly intense, frankly. I just get up in the morning and I want to go back to bed, and I know I can't. I know I'm here to do my work in this time, but it's also very fertile. So don't skip it, do it. Then we have and I am going to have a new moon webinar on Friday night. It's not up yet, but it will be up for the new moon on Sunday, which is a really big new moon. So now the sun's going through this little configuration, first with Saturn, then next week with Uranus and Neptune. Then Venus is going to enter Aquarius on Saturday. So what that's going to do is she suddenly takes off from Earth. She's like out of here, And if you've ever known an Aquarian Venus, they have a very cut off quality. So if you've been rolling around on the floor trying to figure out what to do, when Venus goes into Aquarius, you're going to be, this is what I'm doing. Because she rules Uranus and Uranus is done. And if you remember your mythology, Uranus got his balls cut off and thrown into the sea after he was badly behaved. Now, the good thing happened, out of the sea popped Aphrodite or Venus, right? So the fact that Venus is now running Uranus in Aquarius, we can look for a little castration energy out there. Now, hopefully not bad, but the planets bring the energy and then we get to understand how we work with them, right? So forward we go. We also notice that Venus is rolling in here to Pluto. So she's coming in for a conjunction. Now, this is going to be her third conjunction with Pluto in Aquarius. So she met up with him the last 2 years, and this is her third visit through. The sun only met Pluto in Aquarius last year. So he's new to the game, but Mercury, Venus, and Mars all have met Pluto a few times. And so Venus is going to go into the underworld, hang out with Pluto, and do some transformational work when she hits that Aquarius. And then next week she joins Pluto. But remember what we watch the exactitude's important, but the application is the planets are applying is when the action happens. When it's exact, it's culminated, and then we release, right? We release with 2 degrees. So applying is 10, and then we culminate, and then we release. So it's kind of like running for a train. Train's coming in. You can see the Pluto train coming, and Venus is running to get on the train. And if the doors close, you're not on the train. But if you get on the train and then the doors close, then you find your seat. But these are all applying planets applying to Pluto. This is a big deal. Basically, that means next month's going to be a nightmare also. Or maybe I should rephrase that. Next month's going to be wild and crazy. And, I keep getting the wild and crazy guys from say, we're just 2 wild and crazy guys. And I'm like, yeah, I never liked that skit in the first place. Now I really don't like it because the planets are all like, we're just wild and crazy planets. How are you people doing down there as we keep bumping things around and getting you nutty? So at any rate, Venus now takes over Uranus in Taurus, and any Libra planets you have in your house, your chart, are now suddenly reporting to Venus. And Venus is in Aquarius giving orders. She's very militant in Aquarius, and she's very strategic, and she's also very smart. So we're going to watch for women. We're going to watch for intelligence. We're also going to watch that Venus come to Pluto. Unfortunately, that can be some sacrificial women, or Plutonian women. Let's go for Pluto women that are here to help things transform. Then next up, Saturday, we have the sun. He sextiled Saturn. Now he's going to trine Uranus. That makes it another big weekend in terms of stuff going on. And it is Martin Luther King weekend in the United States. So that we have Monday off, but it also makes for a focused energy of transformation in a holiday about an assassinated leader, right? Yeah. All right. So Venus comes to Vesta and Pluto. So this is transformation of houses. Venus is also air. So I haven't heard anything about hurricanes or tornadoes, but we do want to watch for big winds because with this is like a big wind energy. And it can just be big windy people too. I mean, that's another way to look at it. We see the moon in Capricorn moving in. We see sun trining Uranus. So the 2 of them are saying, okay, what can we do? And it is a closing trine. Uranus is the slower planet. So the sun is psychologically integrating all the work he's been doing with Uranus while it's in Taurus. And this is his last trine to Uranus because Uranus is going to go into Gemini in April. So this is his releasing energy for things that he's worked on over the last 8 years. So it's a great time to launch projects or get things out there. We have a kick butt Mercury-Mars conjunction that happens, the union of the 2 of them. And at this point, Mercury's back in bounds because he comes in on the 16th and he meets up with Mars. So even though he's back in bounds, he's all fired up because he's now going to get loaded up with a dose of Mars. And that's a conjunction that happens early Sunday morning. Now, Venus is here hanging out with Pluto. We still have Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. So we can see the heavens have, good trines, which is nice, but they also have a lot of stressful energy in terms of our direction. And we're going to have the moon out of bounds in Capricorn when we have this full moon. Or new moon rather. So the new moon takes place on Sunday, January 18th at 2:51 p.m. And this is a pretty hard chart. So I was looking at it, because I do a new moon ritual with folks. So this is the last moon of the snake year where we've been shedding things this last year. We go into a fire horse year next new moon, which is in Aquarius. It's a lunar calendar for Chinese. So fire horse gallops rapidly on fire. The snake is all about shedding your skin or shedding your lives or shedding and releasing things. When we look at this chart, we see the ascendant is 29 Gemini, which is an anaretic point, but it's also on a world point. But it's a last degree of the last sign, and it's getting a big quincunx from all these planets in the eighth house. So this is going to be with the sun and moon and Mercury and Mars forming the quincunx, and they're going to go boom, 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 going to set it off, right? Forming the quincunx to the ascendant in the eighth house. This generally shows up as a lot of information, Mercury, around what's going on, and Mercury past Mars, so we're going to hear a lot of secrets coming out. We're going to hear a lot of information happening. We're going to hear new beginnings of things happening. And of course, that week after the new moon on January 22nd, Jack Smith is going to testify in an open audience in front of Congress. So we'll watch for that. We also will have as he's at that last degrees of energy. Now, I've kind of worked with his chart a bit, so I think he's a Virgo rising. The midheaven here at 7.5 of the mutable is a world point. Neptune's on a world point. Chiron's on a world point. The ascendant in DC is a world point. The foundation is a world point. The partnership is at in Capricorn, in the who are we partnering with? More importantly, why are we partnering with them? And most important, this big old stellium up here, where we have 8 planets in 2 signs, Earth and air, which can be a little combative, right? Because air is like dust storms. Think of Earth and air as like sand in your eye on the beach, right? So it's a big new moon. And, I just kind of looked at it and I shook my head and I went, all right, we got to go through it. And then if you notice here, there's little sesquiquadrates, that little square, Saturn square with the little tail on it with the south node here. And that's called the hammer of Thor. So here we have the Chiron and the Eris, the goddess of discord, getting squared by the Mars, the Mercury, the moon, the sun. And the moon and sun have gone past the square, but the Mars and Mercury are coming into it. And this is a hammer of Thor. The hammers of Thor, if you've ever heard Maxwell's Silver Hammer, it's kind of a hammer of Thor song. He went around and killed everybody with his hammer. But it also is, if you think of Thor's hammer in mythology, it could knock the top off the mountains. But it also was compassionate. It would come and play music. It would hang out in the court. It would have a good time. But then if someone came in that the hammer didn't like, it would growl. And it'd go, rrr. And Thor would say, my hammer, it doesn't like you. And the person would go, is that bad? And Thor would go, actually, yeah, it is. Just saying. So the hammer of Thor is forming with the south node of fate as we're going through this week. Because remember, these guys are moving very slowly, but these guys have all hit 24, 25, 26, and they're hitting that south node. So this hammer has been banging pretty steadily, but now for the new moon, it's angular. So we've been having a lot of hammering energy. Think about boom, that's done, boom, that's done. And you're just like, think of hammers, everything looks like a nail to a hammer. So we've already had a whole week of hammers of Thor, and then this new moon is a big old hammer with all those planets banging away. So it's a very intense new moon. Sometimes new moons are fun. Sometimes new moons are like, wow, what are we doing here? And I would just say to you, pace yourself, go to bed, give yourself good input, happy input, stuff that makes you happy. Do your moon, whatever your moon is, because that's your source of comfort. That's, your Pisces moon. For me, it's a good long shower. It's a nice long nap. It's a good sleep. Give me a good 9 hours sleep that night. Look at the energy of the moon, make a list of moon things that your moon likes and go do them, because that will help you handle all this crazy energy. There's also not a lot of air in the sky, right? There's a little bit more now because Venus is there. So it's not a time of really words. It's a very physical time. So your chart will hold the tension, your body will hold the tension. So, stretching and yoga and walking and getting into nature and appreciating that, you're a child of the universe, no less than the stars in the sky. You have a right to be here. And so honoring that energy. But also, if you have folks that are despairing, double check on them. This is a very strong aspect for I don't want to be here anymore. So, double check on your people that are depressed because this is a hard new moon. All right, and then at the end of the day, Mercury sextiles Saturn, so he moves into position to follow Saturn and Venus with the talk to the Saturn and the Mars. And of course, Mars is coming up. Mars is going to be bringing up the back end of the parade. So now one of the things that happens in New York when we have the Thanksgiving Day parade or any kind of parade like New Year's Eve in Times Square, Santa Claus goes by and then right behind him is a phalanx of street sweepers. So we're going to think of Mars as the street sweeper coming along, move along, move along. We're going to move along as all these planets go forward into it. Go watch YouTube videos of sheep herding. I've been tuned into this cute little dog in Ireland that chases the sheep around. And I'm like, that's what's happening in the sky. We're all getting chased around like little sheep. And the dog chases all the sheep into the barn. And then he comes and hops on the farmer's tractor and he goes, hi, didn't I do good? Didn't I do good? So that's the other energy. As you chase your own sheep into the barn, remember to give the dog a treat and a good little pat on the head and say, good boy, good boy. And in the meantime, do your moon because with the Mercury sextile later in the day on Sunday, now the moon is in here next to Pluto. So it's carrying the energy from the new moon through Venus into Pluto and into Vesta. So this makes Sunday night very intense. So off we go. Hopefully that gives you some ideas. I did a setting your intentions video that's out there. You're welcome to buy it and learn about the year ahead and how it's going to affect you. And I also do Patreon where you get a list of aspects for the day and a theme song and a little audio about what today's energy is, which you're welcome to sign up for. When we look at the week in terms of the days, so this week we have, Monday is flowing energy. Tuesday is very flowing, a lot of flow. Wednesday's flowing because we've got all these sextiles, but they're sextiles and trines with hard planets. Thursday's flowing. We get into Friday, we get some crabby because the moon's going to square Saturn and Neptune. And it's going to square them and then be void for the day. Is that right? Actually, I think I made a typo there. Let me just check as I'm looking at it. Void. Yeah, so it goes void. Oh, I hate my life these days. I just make typos. Okay, so the void on Friday on the new moon is at 6:19, goes square to Neptune, and then it enters Capricorn at 6:47 a.m. That should be an a.m. So we don't have a void moon all day Friday. That's good. Okay, I feel better now. So it goes into Cap 6:47 a.m. Typo. And then Saturday is crazy because we have the moon shifting energy, Venus shifting energy, and a lot of planetary aspects with Saturn and Uranus and the sun. So the weekend 17th is wild and crazy. And Sunday is out of control. There's so many aspects on Sunday, and also including Mars, Mercury, Mars, Moon, Mercury, Moon, Saturn, Moon, Uranus, Moon, Sun, Moon, Neptune, Moon, Venus, Mercury, Saturn, Moon, Pluto. Sunday's out of control. Monday, quiet. It is Martin Luther King Day, and the sun enters Aquarius, so it's a little easier. But that's also when Venus completes her conjunction with Pluto on Sunday night. So I apologize for the typo there. All right, so off we go and have a wonderful week. Just we're born in interesting times, and that's our job right now, is to be like, all right, I'm born in interesting times. What do I actually have to do about it? And on that note, we're going to send you off into the world. Have a great day. This was a little late because I flew back yesterday from Cincinnati. So next week should be on time because I'm here this week on Sunday next week. Take care. Bye.